Hello, hello, it's Monday. It is time for Magic Monday. It was
Hello.
Manifestation Monday, and now it's Magic Monday.
Ooh.
Ooh, real Magic Monday.
Yeah, not to be confused with Manic Monday. Okay, okay, so we want to know why Jay-Z hates chapter two of Real Magic.
Okay, because the reason I'm having a bit of an issue in this book is again, it's like I'm just hypercritical of writing style. So much like I just didn't appreciate this person saying, "Excuse me, your life is waiting." I don't know. It's like really no big deal. I'm just hypercritical. What we got to in this book is now we're talking about this chapter where he's making these like pseudo-scientific claims by like name dropping
Yeah,
and taking things out of context.
right. Is there a citation anywhere in this book?
Well, yeah, right. And then you have to kind of like read what he's talking about. So in this chapter, he's trying to lend some weight to his idea of that we have not just like a physical presence, but also this invisible body or presence or layer or whatever, however you want to say it. And so he starts name dropping people like Hans Bethe, who got the Nobel Peace Prize or Nobel Prize winner, said that
Yeah,
John von Neumann was one of
right.
the smartest people he knew. And he said that, blah, 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 that like there's more things in that than just what you see in the reality, and actually your thoughts create your reality.
Yeah,
But what he doesn't mention that yeah, that guy also, Hans Bethe, would also like really loved Richard Feynman, who also won a Nobel Peace Prize, and who, when asked, "Are you an atheist or an agnostic? Like you don't seem to believe in God. Do you consider yourself atheist or agnostic?" replied, I am an atheist because I believe that God is a helpful construct for people because it's associated with things that people don't yet understand or like science hasn't proven yet. So, but he kind of like he doesn't the author Wayne Dyer like cherry picks things.
yeah,
He
yeah,
also then he backs up also his side by saying, "Oh, well, Albert Einstein said that like uh what do you say? Like imagination is more important than knowledge." And Albert Einstein didn't say that at all in context. In context, what he was saying was that imagination is really important because it leads us to think up more ideas, which then turn into knowledge when we prove them. Anyway, that's
Wow.
why I was having trouble with this chapter in the book. And it's kind of the same problem that I was having when we were reading The Secret Life of Plants.
Oh, interesting. Well,
wow,
I'm
that
not
was
gonna let
before
you
my
read the
time.
book I wrote. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
Anyway, that's
Your
my
Virgo
long-winded
planets.
explanation because you asked me.
With your Virgo
I,
planets. Okay.
I have a problem
Virgo
with
planet.
with
Yeah.
the Virgo planet.
Well, in my case, it's my Pluto and Uranus and Virgo.
They're just critical. Anyway, okay, go ahead with Lumiere.
Oh, I was just going to say with that passage that Jay Z was talking about the guy whose name I can't remember. Oh, that Beth had once remarked, I have sometimes wondered whether a brain like John von Neumann's does not indicate a species superior to that of men. That's complete opinion.
Yeah.
That's complete opinion. And it's something he could say over a beer. He didn't, and that's a little weird for me. I have some things I like about this chapter, but um, there's that. Like And then the other thing is these ideas. I forget what he calls them, where there are at least 10 of them. The spiritual being, spiritual versus non-spiritual beings. The
There's
spiritual
12 of them.
12 of them. The spiritual dozen. For all of the ideas about a world we can't see and what we can imagine, and trying to encourage us to be imaginative, they're very black and white. A non-spiritual person sees this, a spiritual person sees this. What the hell do you know? He says, he says, uh,
I love how
um,
you guys are offended by this guy who just has an idea.
no, I'm not, no, I'm not taking it too badly, but he says, on page 44, he says, a non-spiritual being has become arrogant. All non-spiritual beings are arrogant?
Yeah, it depends on the chart.
It depends on the chart,
Some
right?
charts are arrogant, some are not.
If he said a non-spiritual being becomes arrogant, depending on their chart, I would have bought it.
Well, we don't believe everything we read. That's not the show we're making. We're not like, okay. We're like,
No, no,
read
we're
it
not.
and then
We're not.
discuss, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so.
No, but anyway, I'm up to
All right, well, let's see what we can learn from this cupcake by
Yeah.
yeah,
Wayne Dyer. Okay. The first interesting concept in this chapter is
Mhm.
that miracles cannot be understood by the rational mind. They go beyond the rational mind to the dimension of spirituality. And you have to kind of believe in your spiritual self in order to see and make miracles. So I guess a lot of this chapter is about the spiritual self and the non-spiritual self, or spiritual people and non-spiritual people.
yeah.
So what does this mean to see beyond the rational mind?
Ooh, I like this part. If this is the part that was about cause and effect too, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Where because yeah, I like this that like in manifesting things, like you can't worry that it seems illogical that like or maybe not illogical that you would get your manifestation because there's a certain logic to the belief, like believing because you've seen the evidence play out that if you do these certain techniques, which is to like, think about what you want while you're at a hypnagogic state or, have these affirmations or whatever, and then the things actually do show up. Like we have actually experienced that. But that's a weird cause and effect, that not a lot of people would believe.
I gotta look up rational. Define rational.
It's
So
under boring
based in
routine.
accordance with reason or logic. So this would be like looking beyond logic. We kind of talked about this last week that we should make our manifestations seem so logical as it would be illogical to not let us have them.
Yeah,
Um, but I mean, I can get behind this that you have to, in order to really embrace magic, you have to lose like this idea that everything happens in this like logical order because like the guy who dreamt that he was going to make an airplane, like everyone's like, you can't, people can't fly, but he like went beyond that logic and made a new logic. Yeah, I mean, I think
right,
this is like Miracle's baseline 101 is like, don't be a freaking lackey to logic.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Your
I
own
think
logic, because you're going to make a new logic.
make your own logic. But I feel like we feel trapped by logic, and we're willingly trapped by logic. Sometimes we say, "Well, it can't happen," because I've never seen it happen.
Well, like this person, Lily Lu, who I'm reading their book, they're an existential philosopher. And they do all kinds of things like cut off pieces of their body and shit like that. They cut off their own fingers and stuff. But anyway, the point is that they were talking about Evel Knievel and how it seemed illogical that you could, flip a motorcycle in the air, but then Evel Knievel did it, and then now people do it all the time. But like at the time before Evel Knievel did it, it seemed highly illogical that would ever happen. Like, so I think Yeah, just push the boundaries of life. I mean, that's part of manifestation is making a new thing happen that wasn't there before.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
imagining a thing that wasn't there before is important to it.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Yes.
I get this is what he was trying to say, I think, now that we're talking about it, in the beginning part where he was basically was saying that you gotta leave space to believe that things we haven't yet proven scientifically, eventually we might get there. And then, like, don't wait for that to happen to start acting as though it's believable and true. Because then you can create some miracles in the meantime.
Yeah. So the next part he says is that there's this invisible world and then this visible world. There's this internal world and this external world. And he says like real magic starts in the invisible internal worlds. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I gotta agree with that because I think
Yeah.
it's with your thoughts curation and with your creating an environment in which that thing is gonna make manifest. Yeah. It's kind of like the experiment that we were talking about, in the other in Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment book where they say that like you think things before you do them in reality.
I mean, this is kind of manifestation 101 is like
Yeah.
vision it first. But I have to tell you guys a story. Okay, a story about like illogicalism and visions and stuff. So it's like, okay, I have this producer, Billy. And when I met Billy, I was like, oh my God, that's my producer. You know what I mean? And so like I just like visioned for years, like this is my producer. And everyone's like, you're illogical, you're hallucinating. Like when I was in the hospital, I was like I would be doing all this production work in the hospital for schizophrenia, and then Billy would be there producing. He was like the pipes on the top. Like I would make decisions and then I would hear the pipes talking to me, and that was a Billy or whatever. And so people are like, you keep hallucinating that Billy is your producer. It just seems so illogical to them, but it was like real in my internal, the invisible internal world. I was like, oh, this is real. Now he actually is my producer and we work together weekly. And it's like, finally, finally I'm not delusional, but it's just kind of funny because it like took me 10 years to like convince everyone that it would be illogical for me to not have my producer. You know what I mean? But it's like,
Yeah.
so for 10 years I was delusional and now they're delusional basically, but it's just
Yeah.
I this invisible world is definitely where life starts. Is like if something is real for you internally, it will eventually, if you internally have it real for long enough, it will eventually externally be real as well, I think.
I think that's true. 10 years is quite a chunk. But now you can go back to those other people and say, see,
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that's just one of many examples, but I mean, that one went beyond logic because no one else could see it. They didn't understand the I don't know, that no one understood the storyline that was so clear to me or whatever, but I I hope that wasn't too personal, but I guess I wanted to just say like that's an example where something was real on the internal realm, but because it wasn't real externally, everyone and you had asked a question last week of like how do you know a vision's just of how it's not just a fantasy. And it's like
right?
something may seem like just a fantasy for 10 years, but if it's real internally, it might be the magic. It might be the magic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. At this, for this example, though, I mean, I want to wonder whether, not whether, but how much of what happened with Billy was you manifesting this and how much was just a clear path where you just did it and you made all the elements work so that Billy was your manager, producer, sorry. Maybe, and maybe they're the same thing.
Yeah, I don't really know. It just started to seem so illogical for it to not be happening that you know what I mean? I have no
Yeah.
idea, you know. So what do you guys think of this next point where he says the non-local view, like there's this non-local view of the mind that people think that the mind exists right here in this brain area.
Yeah.
But according to this magic theory, the mind exists all over. Like your mind is in your Facebook and your emails and your text and your, you know, it transcends space and time. So like how far does the mind go actually?
Well, I like this idea, and I went somewhere with it. That's page 23, I think, 28. Um, so what he's saying is that, well, I when they he said that the mind is not local, but it's out there. We experience everybody's all of our stuff is out there, and this is just a terminal. I thought about the mind being like the cloud in computing. And so then I wondered if we invented the cloud linked to terminals to mirror that which is actually us. And we inadvertently created a version of ourselves more concrete, than something we could understand, where the cloud is the mind and the terminal is us.
So if we think something, does that mean it's holographically sent out everywhere? Like if I'm like, wow, I'm really enjoying this episode, can like everything in space time feel me thinking that? Is that what this is saying?
I think that's what it's saying, and I think that may be true if the other parts of the universe are sensitized to it.
Like, do you guys think this happens only through things like Facebook and emails and texts? Like, or do you think just merely our thoughts transcend space and time?
I think that there might have to be some kind of communication mechanism to the receiver. So I guess it depends on whether or not you think that exists. Although there are these things like, yeah, even things like, you know about mirror neurons?
No.
Mirror neurons are kind of like when say you're happy, and then you're in the same room as someone else and you're just like happy and joyful, and they kind of catch your vibe and they become more happy and joyful. Then like they've done some scientific studies too, like that like this can actually happen if like you're in different rooms or different,
Um,
distances from each other. And then there's this thing that they're trying to locate exactly what it is and they think that they found it in these things called mirror neurons, where like you do want something in one place and the neuron over in the other place, like somehow, they don't know how, receives that same message instantaneously, and it
you,
affects that thing too.
you mean a neuron in the brain, right?
Can't exactly remember. Gotta look it up.
It's the same theory where if you yawn, somebody next to you might yawn too. Is that the same idea?
Yeah, but he's saying it could happen like in a different room.
In a
Like,
Yeah.
different room? Yeah, yeah.
well, I feel like the old psychic people before all the like, you know, ubiquitous like Instagram and Facebook and stuff, like psychicism was more prevalent. And like people did feel like if you thought something, the psychic could feel it from far away. I mean, I think it depends on if we're including psychicism.
What about people who are like, and somebody close to them died and they knew at that moment?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I've felt that sometimes. My father had a particular smell about him. It wasn't bad. It was just his smell, and I smelled it every time before he called, like 15 minutes before he called me when I moved to the West Coast.
Wow.
And about 15 minutes before he called, I smelled him.
Wow. Well, I guess for manifestation theory or magic in this book is if we think about our minds this way, then if we are thinking something magical in our invisible internal realm, it is actually touching the world all over the place. And so we shouldn't just think of our thoughts in here. We should think of our thoughts like in the cloud, like Lumiere is saying, like when I think something, I'm out in the cloud here thinking.
Yeah. No, I think that that might be the case. We just have to be careful we don't encrypt the thoughts we have.
I'll unencrypt your thought because I'm a hacker. No, I don't know. He says
He's a
that
hacker.
I know. I'm a
Yeah.
psychic hacker.
And the cloud
Psychic
is just
hackers.
somebody else's computer.
Yeah. Psychic
In
hackers is a good band name.
Psychic hacker.
psychic
So
hackers.
he says that magic is using the invisible self to influence physical reality, which I feel like, why do I feel like this is a manifestation book and not a magic book?
Well, it might overlap.
So using the invisible self to influence physical reality, can we get an example of that?
What did you say? Using the invisible self to
In
influence reality?
physical reality.
Hmm, I see. Yeah, that's like the law of attraction or like the any of the manifestation things. I guess I'm still back at what you said of like it seems to me like manifestation, but they call it magic. And like I think that this is this part of it that because we read the manifestation books and have been studying that for like a year and practicing it, we understand that there are like certain techniques that actually do have a cause and effect relationship with making things happen in our consensual reality that are the things that we envisioned. So maybe that's the problem that I'm having is like I don't need all this like woo woo you gotta believe because I have seen a, you know, kind of like a process that actually does work, you know?
Right. The scripting your life was very concrete. Make these journal entries, follow this routine, et cetera, et cetera. It was very, very concrete for what it was, is.
Yeah. And I think that when people say use the word magic, they mean things that like um have a tenuous relationship to if you actually do this set of steps, it will result with this result, right? But maybe that's
Yeah.
not true. Like ritual magic, I mean, maybe that's why people do ritual magic in order to say, and because they, you know, will do this series of steps in order to provoke a certain outcome.
Well, and he's saying don't be a physical being only, be spiritual or spiritually consciously aware of the physical and invisible dimension, which I feel like you and I, the three of us, all got this internal vision part in our scripting work. It's like we already took manifestation 101. So for us, we're not like whoa about this concept, but maybe for people who are just getting any of this here right now, they would be wowed by the concept that like you're like we're not physical only. We are this
Right.
invisible internal vision realm made manifest. And so I think that's we just got to remember that going forward in this chapter, which is about being a non-spiritual being and being a spiritual being. And in order to be magical, you want to go towards this invisible spiritual side of things as opposed to this tangible, visible side.
Right. But working together with your body. On 29, he says, triumph over flesh and blood. And I don't agree with that. I don't need to triumph over flesh and blood. I want my flesh and blood to work with the spiritual part.
You want to collaborate with your flesh and blood, not triumph over it.
That's right.
Co-create with your flesh and blood.
I, I would like to do that. If I want triumphing over my flesh and blood meant that I would have no teeth problems and no knee problems. That's what that would mean for me. But given all that and that I'm old, what I really want is the harmony between my spiritual side and the flesh and blood side. So that's one of those things I did this about.
Well, that's actually in highly spiritual theory, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to pull energy up from the ground and then pull energy down the crown and then mix them here in the heart. So you're supposed to actually marry your flesh and blood with your crown, which is where you get all your higher purpose. That's
Huh.
actually the really heart-turning, open heart chakra, like really centered being, from what I've learned. So I think you're right, actually. Yeah, Wayne Dyer, you're getting beat up in this episode.
That's right.
Just kidding. I love you. I love your book, Wayne. We're just
No, it's
kidding.
fun, but
Our invisible realm is kidding.
Our
I mean,
invisible realm recognizes that you wrote this book like back in the
92.
1992. Yeah. So it was groundbreaking at the time, especially to be in pop culture. Like the reality that he's talking about when he separates like people into like non-spiritual beings and spiritual beings are like, in America in 1992. So there's that, you know.
Right. Yeah. No, this is put it in context, I guess. But we're also critical analyzers. So he should expect us to do this through his book.
He loves us. Are you kidding? Okay, so now we're into the spiritual dozen of these 12 spiritual rules where you can be a spiritual being or a non-spiritual being. So number one is he says that the spiritual being utilizes multidimensional thinking, whereas the non-spiritual being limits everything to their five senses. So what's that look like to be a multidimensional being?
Well, I mean, what it suggests is being non-spiritual. I'm sorry, I forgot what you said.
Non-spiritual
Non-spiritual,
people are just in their five senses, like what they can smell, what they can taste, what they can feel. But the
but
multidimensional being is different.
what he's implying is limited
But yeah, because we learned
because
that we're not supposed to be limited.
right. And if you only have five senses, then you can't envision anything beyond the five senses. So what he's implying in this whole dirty dozen is that um, those non-spiritual are limited by their non-spiritualness. That's my interpretation. I could be wrong.
Well, I
Tell me
guess
I'm
in the
wrong.
multidimensional realm, like we could send out even a thought and it would be perceptible to human life. It's not just, it doesn't have to be something you see with your eyes. It could even be like a vision could be sent out and it's like we're beyond this concrete dimension. We're like functioning up in this multidimensional realm.
Yeah. Yes. Um,
All right, a spiritual being believes that loving guidance is available, whereas the non-spiritual being believes that we're always alone.
yes, that was the other one I wrote down. Uh, we are alone in the universe on 34.
Well, how do we know we're not alone? You are not alone. I am here with you. Though you're far away, I'm always here to play. No, I don't know. That's not what it is.
Um, well, alone in the universe, I think they mean spiritually alone, but I don't feel alone in the universe. Like it's impossible to believe that this is the only form of life in this one little stupid planet. when there's a whole universe out there that will probably, well, I know I will never see it, but maybe we will never see it or could see it. So we're not alone. But
We're
are
not
we alone?
alone on this planet. I
What?
mean, we're not even alone on this planet.
Right, right.
Like there are all sorts of other life forms that we don't take account of, like, single cell organisms or algae or whatever, like, because they're just not on our radar, but like they populate the earth like manyfold more than we humans.
Yeah, right.
Well, okay, so the spiritual being believes loving guidance is available. So I learned in recovery to like give your will over to God's will and blah blah and talk to your higher power. And what's happened now is like a lot of people drink to turn off their mind or whatever because my mind races, you know. So now I can't do that. It's been 18 months since I had a drink. So it's like, okay, so now what do I do with my mind? Well, I realized like I put the God formation in there. So it'll be like, God, what do you think of this? God, what do you think of this? God, what's the will for this? And this is like God, or whatever. And then my mind talks to me and like I was just at the pool for an hour and a half, my mind just going, like where I'm sitting in the hot tub and my mind just going. And you guys, you can't even be alone, like, because your mind is like harassing you. You should try to just not have your mind harass you. Like, I like
Okay.
to watch people run by me, and I'm like, they're actually not just running, they're thinking. Their mind is like literally harassing them right now. But later in here, we sees that he sees that understanding intuition is God talking. Like, you're never alone because the
Hmm.
creation itself is talking to you. Like whatever created you will keep talking to you. I mean, not that it has to be the creator talking to you, but like creation itself will just keep you occupied, even if you were in a room alone. Sorry.
Right, because we have like sensors, all sorts of different kind of sensors that are continuously feeding us information. And that's like the universe is constantly talking to you because there's like constantly like things to look at and things that you hear. Like when you do that exercise, when you just sit quietly and then write a list of all the things that you hear, even when the room is quiet. Even if say I'm in a quiet room, well, I just heard that the compressor of my refrigerator just went on and then kicked off again. I hear, my something dripping over there, or I hear a bird on my porch, or I like, yeah, there's constant inputs to your sensors.
And multidimensional inputs too, not just your five senses.
Yeah. And then you have your mind, which is constantly like taking the electrical impulses that are coming to your brain uh, and interpreting those. And that I think is what is like, that's what's always with you that you can question and talk to.
Yeah, it's like I dare you to be alone. It doesn't even work. Okay, number three is they focus on the authentic personal empowerment, whereas non-spiritual beings focus on demanding external power.
Uh, yeah, and this he's making the distinction of people who want to be CEOs and people that are trying to develop themselves.
You're making that
I
distinction.
am making that distinction, but that's what it seems I'm summarizing.
No, it is. It's like internal development versus external reward. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so if you
People who are vanquishing their mind versus people who are vanquishing the other humans around them.
what's it mean to vanquish?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to, I think, conquer,
Yeah, conquer, suck up.
decisively conquer.
You know,
The sign I would use, get it.
to get it.
Oh, really? That's what you would use?
Yeah, the and
Vanquish, defeat thoroughly. Whatever.
yeah,
Well,
I vanquished the marauders.
I think it comes down to that internal, the extrinsic and intrinsic. reward system. It's like people are only looking for extrinsic reward, which is like someone to tell them they did get a job or achievement or success in their job. They're not going to be as spiritual as people are saying, like, well, if I grew today, that's all I needed, you know? Because you'll definitely grow today, but will you get a promotion at work? We don't know.
You'll
You
grow today if that's what you want. But you have to talk like that to grow? That's my question.
know?
Well, I don't think people think about growing today often. I think people are thinking about their drop down list of the things they have to do. And then it would be nice if I had more money and I got that promotion at work so that I could do all these things without having to worry where my next buck comes from.
Hmm.
I think they don't. I don't know if do people you know, well, people you know
I
probably.
do because I'm in AA and people they always say in AA if you're not growing, you're dying. And so that's I was taught that early in recovery is to basically get addicted to growth.
Yeah, and I'd say that a majority of people that I know and hang out with are into learning. Like they want to learn something new every day and get really jazzed about learning new things.
That's great.
But it might also have to do with, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If you have
Right.
like, food and shelter all settled out, then you
Yeah.
can start with work on higher levels.
And you have to
Right.
remember that you're hanging out with spiritual beings, and a lot of people in AA are spiritual beings because they're really looking at higher power. So I think there are spiritual these people are doing what a spiritual being would do, is look towards growth, you know. Um, okay, he also says spiritual beings feel connected to all of humanity, whereas non-spiritual beings feel separate from all others. This is kind of a repeat. But Jay-Z, don't you think this is the all is one consciousness enlightenment concept is like we are all one?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the like we're all connected underneath I love that thing that has the ocean with the islands and it's like these look like they're separate from above the waterline, but really underneath they're all connected. Or the mushroom, what do you call it? Mycelium or something?
Mycelium.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that concept.
Lumiere, do you feel connected to all of humanity?
Uh, not since the election. Um, well, I mean, I haven't thought about it that way, but not simpatico. But you are connected to all of humanity because you don't live on an island. So you are connected, whether you like it or not, in some way to all of humanity. Everybody on the right and everybody on the left.
Yeah, I think,
I
and
do.
all of the people are operating out of their own sense of trying to take care of themselves and their loved ones and their tribe, and trying in the ways that they think are the best.
Yeah. Yeah. And if they're uninformed, uneducated, misguided, or completely aware of everything in the universe, they still have the same goal. Andy and I work with people that pop up on their screen. We don't know anything about them except what we can see behind them. And but there's a certain part of us, and I like this bit a lot. There's a certain part of us that says, well, I recognize you. I feel like I recognize you. Even if you're a wingnut, I recognize you. There's some part of you that I recognize. And that is a connectedness. And we can talk to that person. There's no social introduction. There's no getting to know that person. We just start talking to people. And it shows a kind of connectedness that you can't escape.
Well, okay, so let me take this astrological for a second. One of the ways that, astrologers are trained to see the connectedness of human life is through the astrological clock, because when we look at the the transits or where the moving planets are, we're looking at how all of humanity is ticking along together psychically. Like, yeah, those planets hit each of our different charts in different ways, but there's also these like big like natural, like Saturn's coming up to Neptune right now for everybody, right? So it's like we're all like a living, breathing organism together under that clock. And so I really feel this just even theoretically, you know.
Yeah, theoretically, right. I do too. I feel like what we share is a membrane we can't see, and if philosophically Jay-Z burps, then philosophically that will go out and somebody else will get it philosophically. Uh,
What if he belches?
that will go out more like that, be like this. But yeah, so I feel like I sometimes talk to myself about a rift in the membrane or a synchronicity in the membrane. I feel like it's as fragile as any membrane.
Well, and I think this really, the magic of this is, there's this idea that nothing we do matters. Like we make these videos and like no one cares and all this stuff. And there's also the flip side, which is that every single thing we do matters. Like every one of these videos is having an effect on the membrane. And I think when you're looking from a magic and miracles perspective, like everything we do matters is way more powerful than nothing we do matters.
Yes.
So,
It's also, we have to be careful. It's a little self-soothing. Hard to say with false teeth, but it's self-soothing. We
yeah.
have to be careful of that.
What do you mean be
Oh, pull
careful?
up your narcissist pants. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, but wait, but why be careful? I don't understand. What do you mean?
Because it that theory it might be true, but it also makes our ego feel that it's doing the right thing. Whatever we do is important, and so
Uh, okay.
that strokes the ego a little bit.
Mm,
And it could be that everything, like Andrew was saying, everything we do is important, but in the non-spiritual world, we have to be careful we don't overinflate the ego.
well, how about this nuance? It's not that everything we do is important, but everything we do has the potential to be important. Because it's like one of those, the early Course in Miracles lesson of we don't know what this is for. So we don't know what the ultimate result of us making these videos is going to be. And we don't know what the ultimate impact is going to be, but it's going to be something that's, I guess, uh, seems like it will be, more on the helpful side than the damaging side. Maybe
Yeah,
that's the ego soother that, like, I just can't see how it would hurt anything,
no,
but it has the potential to be helpful.
yeah, no, I agree. And it throws out the, the, the thought, the pondering into the universe, into the membrane. So I think that's important. And we like doing this. We all like being together and we like doing this. And the critical analysis is probably like a great big bowl of raisin bran for us, each of us. But um, I feel like we're giving because there's no real benefit for us. None of us are going to get rich. None of us are going to get goods. We're and us coming together is really for us, but it's giving as well. And that's going to bring me to on 36. He says, when you get to the giving stage, you will be aligned with your purpose.
Well, I
And I
think
feel
we're
that's
focusing on
really true.
authentic personal empowerment through these episodes. Like we're being spiritual because it's not about the external reward. We're just focusing on the personal empowerment of
Right,
growing. And that's why we're
right.
doing it. And that's why we're super enlightened. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just being a narcissist. I just like to poke you with narcissism.
Been poked.
It's like hitting you with a spitball.
But I like the idea of the giving stage to be aligned with your purpose.
Yeah, I like that. We learned that when I think when Tony was on, where she was talking about in Dyer's idea of manifestation, you go out giving. And I haven't been able to shake that concept since then because you know yeah, but I like that when you give of your purpose, that's when you're really flying, you know. All right, let's do one more. Okay, so we know the spiritual being knows a dimension beyond cause and effect. You guys had brought this one up. And the non-spiritual being believes excessively in cause and effect. So what is this? What's the deal here? What's wrong with cause and effect?
All right, this is the one Jay-Z commented on.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with cause and effect, and I don't think there's anything wrong in having a linear time scale to your thinking sometimes of being like, if I do this, then this will happen. But I guess maybe it's not necessary to limit of your limit your idea of what the effects or outcomes will be by being able to decisively say, well, if I do this, then that will happen. If I do this, then that will happen. Because maybe there's some cause and effect relationships that you don't understand yet or aren't knowledgeable about yet. And maybe when he says the non-spiritual person, oh, and I say that in a completely non-pejorative
Yeah,
way.
I
And
could
then I
tell.
keep saying, but if you were spiritual, you would do it this way.
Right,
Anyway,
that's right.
the we don't judge you non-spiritual person
But you're a non.
is
You're one of the nons.
excessively interested in cause and effect in the
Right,
physical realm only.
Well, and maybe this has to do with logicalism, right? Logical cause and effect. Like if I send out these beads to XYZ, they will send me something back or something like not assuming I know cause and effect, but just letting go of that and doing your magic. Like I'm gonna just send these out and like let the universe have its cause and effect or something like that.
Yeah, and maybe it's like you're doing the cause and you're like, universe, you decide what the effect is gonna be.
right.
Interesting.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
We often want to see a reward and effect for our cause because I don't know why because, but I feel like it's because we expect capitalism expects payoff.
It's that external reward there. It's that, it's like we just want this external achievement or, but spiritual beings are so much about what was the internal growth I experienced by sending out the beads and, what
Right.
this, like you just have to be this like, nothing I do matter. No, no, everything you do
Yeah.
matters, but you got to be,
Everything you do matters.
Well,
But
yeah.
you send out the beads without expecting anything, right?
yeah. Well, I've learned to because I've read a lot of books.
Well, I like making these episodes because I enjoy the hour in which we make them. Like that
Yeah,
is the reward, you know?
Yeah,
for
I
me
like
Not
too.
it as happy hour with good conversation.
Right. Yeah, it's great. And it's just water
Oh yeah,
up there.
me too. All
is
right, you
that
guys.
alcoholic water?
No, it's just water.
Whoa.
Non-alcoholics, non-spiritual water.
That's a good place to end, you guys. Okay, I gotta go teach, so I'm gonna let you go. But I'll
Go
see you
teach.
tomorrow, Daisy, and Lumiere will see you soon. I got something coming
Sunday.
for you in the mail too. All right.
All right.
Woo-wee. All right. Thanks for
Bye.
the light, J or the camera, JZ. I'll
Oh,
set it up.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. Take
All
care.
right.